right, you're live on the Arms Room with Glenn
and John,
and we have video today.
Woohoo!
For the first time in like a year,
Hi.
we're back on video, and today we're on location at Tacville with Rigo. How you doing,
Hello.
Rigo?
I'm all right.
Don't be so scared of the camera, Rigo.
I hate
know
it.
it freaks
I hate
you
it.
out.
I spent my whole career trying to stay away from it.
It's all right.
But we appreciate you letting us come in here and talk to you a little bit.
Okay.
So normally we wait until after we do our little intro stories and stuff to get going, but I got the stuff I want to talk about. I actually want to get Rigo's opinion on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What are we talking?
So first of all, we got to mention today's show brought to you by Hex Mag.
Yep. If you don't have Hex Mags, you're dumb. Go buy some Hex Mags.
They're like a mag, like any other mag. It reliably feeds ammunition to the weapon system.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of mags out there that don't do that.
Yeah.
So make sure that you check them out.
Go buy some Hex Mags.
I got to get your take, because I know what John thinks and I know what I think, but I got to get your take on something. There's been a couple situations that have happened in the last couple of weeks. There was one in the church with that concealed weapons holder. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
So a guy is sitting in the wrong seat, basically. I mean, I'm going to sum this up real.
This is my seat.
Yeah. And a guy walks up to him in a church and says, hey, these seats are reserved for somebody else. And a verbal confrontation ensues. Another churchgoer approaches with his handgun drawn and his CCW badge out.
Okay.
And he engages in a verbal confrontation with the aggressor, so to speak. Anyway, long story short, he ends up shooting and killing him with no justification. You didn't hear about that one?
No, not yet. I was teaching all last week. So
How about the one in the Walgreens parking lot? Did you hear about that one?
tell me that one too.
So
First of all, yeah, I can see where this is going. But.
So there's a domestic dispute where a husband shoots a wife
In a parking lot.
in a parking lot. Another guy sees what's going on, runs to his vehicle, gets his gun, then runs to this guy's vehicle, tries to keep him in the parking lot, and the guy just leans out the window and shoots him once in the head. Game over.
Yeah, he's not a cop. He's not trained to be a cop. Your job is to protect yourself, or if he continues to fight and kill people, then you can intervene. But that's not your priority right now. I mean,
That's his problem in his space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's unfortunate what happened between him and his wife. Fortunate for her, obviously. But we don't teach anybody CCW. You do not get involved and be a hero. That thing is there to protect you and your loved ones. That's it. Create distance. If you're going to go get engagement, you have to go through a whole nother level of training. That's not taught in regular handguns. So yeah. And then too often I see guys with CCWs who carry a handgun, and this now becomes a part of their "I don't mess with me" approach, because you don't know, but I have a gun. And I'm like, really? This is not a gunfight. This is an argument, or this is going to be a fist fight. This is still not a gunfight. But yet, this is what they're ready to introduce into an argument. So they're going to go to jail. So
Get a little closer mic for me, yeah.
Hello. So
Better.
too often, I even have to do this with law enforcement when I teach with law enforcement, is you cannot solve every problem with a firearm. Everything has to start off within a range where you can either go hands-on, possibly transition to firearm. Too often people have created that line in the sand mentality that, you know what, if you go beyond this line in the sand, I'm going to pull my gun out. And I go, okay, now the guy's dictating psychologically, he's dictating tempo, he's dictating everything. And you're just putting there waiting to sit there and say, can I go forward yet? And then the fight's on you and you're getting your butt kicked. Still not a gunfight. Still not a gunfight.
Well, in the take we had on, we taught a defensive handgun class this weekend, and we were talking about these situations to the students before class. Like, let's talk about the reality of what everyone refers to as mindset, right? Let's talk about the realities of what that actually means. And in both of those situations, you had really poor judgment, and
Yes.
neither one of those guys had, where one CCW guy actually shot and killed someone, murdered a guy basically, and the other guy pulled his gun but had no real capability to use it. You had guys who, when all you carry is a hammer,
One was
looks
looking
like a
for
nail.
compliance in a state where, when you're killing your wife, there's obviously an emotional reason behind it. It's not logical. So you're going to go out there and try to get compliance from that. Not going to happen. Not going to even happen with an LE. If you're wearing a badge, it doesn't matter. You go up there, you can observe and hopefully keep him from hurting anybody else. That's it. But you can't even shoot unless what? Your life's in danger. Until you see a threat. And then by that time, it'd probably be over. You're not using cover. I'm sure he wasn't using cover.
No, he was standing right by the truck.
Standing right by the window.
All in the open. Now, there's another situation in Georgia on a college campus where a man was like kind of groping some women and kind of not really sexually assaulting them, just kind of harassing some women. And a kid goes and intervenes. Okay.
How is groping not sexual?
Well, because he's not like
that's blatant sexual harassment or sexual assault. Actually, by the definition of the law.
Let me rephrase that then. He's not like
he's not trying to rape anybody.
He's not dragging one behind a bush. Okay. How about that? Okay.
He's not trying to rape anybody.
He's out in the open, just kind of being an ass, right?
Right.
And a kid runs up and tries to stop him, and the dude produces a knife and stabs the kid to death. So, like all three of these stories have really, really similar themes, right? Where people tried to help, but did not possess either the skill or the tool to do so.
There's the thing I learned. I got hurt a long time ago. I've been studying combatives and martial arts for a long time. I've been a fighter, been a bouncer, worked security. And so there's different elements into the psychology of fighting. The first time I ever got hurt was because I wanted to intervene and to basically bring intelligence to somebody who wasn't acting accordingly, basically. And that's the worst thing I can ever tell you. It changed my perspective completely. From that point on, anytime I was going to go and intervene, I was going in there to destroy. And when you go in there with that mindset, you can do some things. If you go in there and try to negotiate with somebody
who's already violent,
or you don't even know yet, but you're not going to talk a guy down. I remember I knocked out a guy who was drunk one time, and my buddies go, "Why'd you knock him out?" I go, "So next time he won't be drunk." And they're like, you're being, they don't understand that guy who's drunk can easily hurt somebody. He can do something else. He's being an idiot. He's pushed the guy. I had to justify because I've seen so many bad things out there. I wasn't a bully. I hated bullies, And so the biggest problem I always see people is people try to negotiate or they try to de-escalate the situation. I'm like, my philosophy has always been this. This is my circle. If you were dumb enough to get in my circle, you have to figure out how to get out of my circle. My job isn't try to tell you to get out of my circle. It's never been that way. Once that mindset changes, you can get hurt.
Now here's the last story we'll talk about. 11-year-old kid who shoots that home intruder. But it's a great story for this reason. So the guy breaks into the house, and this kid retrieves a firearm, AR-15, I think.
Sure.
And some kind of long gun. I'm pretty sure it was a small caliber.
Yeah.
And the guy he loots a bunch of stuff, puts it in a laundry basket, and as he's running away, the kid puts a round through the laundry basket, and it goes into the guy. And the kid says this afterwards: "I knew because I was shooting Full Metal Jacket, it was going to punch right through that laundry basket." He's 11 years old, man.
Well-educated child.
Hold on, because it gets better.
Poor judgment.
This is the kid's quote. He says, "I shot him, and then he fell down and cried like a little baby."
Wow.
Now, I know he's a kid, and obviously there's a certain element of that kind of immaturity that came out there. But to me, I looked at those other three stories, and then I looked at this 11-year-old kid's story, and I was like, that's an entirely different set of mindset that 11-year-old kid had.
Yeah, buddy. That
those three adults totally did not have.
Yeah. Well, it's funny with video games nowadays. Kids know more about guns. They may have never handled that gun, but they'll tell you everything about it. That thing can shoot. It's full. It'll go through this. If you change the round, I'm like, really? When was the last time you touched that gun? But my dude did on the video game. No, I think it's awesome. Obviously, he did the right thing. If there was an intruder, I have nothing against him other than maybe they shouldn't get Full Metal Jacket.
Maybe he needs some different rounds, do a little more damage. But anyways, I thought that was interesting because it was a very stark contrast to these other three guys who had really crappy mindsets, and this kid had pretty good.
Parents talked him through it and said, "Hey, you know what?
This is what happens if this happens.
You go in. He knew how to get a rifle and get into the fight." The other ones. Too often people get a CCW. I work with different posse members from, the sheriff's office, the federal marshal posse, and you got citizens who want to participate and help. And they're law abiding, but they really don't understand what they're getting themselves into. I'm like, you really, just by taking this badge and holding a gun, you don't have any idea, what really you're doing. So that's what we produce some of our training for, to help these guys out, because they're not really law enforcement. You know, what is, you're just a CCW carrying card holder with a little bit of extra responsibilities, but you're not doing anything else. You know,
and they usually have a very minimal involvement in the world of shooting and defensive tactics. And most of them have no combatives and no verbal skills and nothing like that.
But they have their gun. That's all they need. That's all they need. All you need is your gun and that little plastic card.
Yeah, it's
not true.
Yeah.
So there's two things that I did this weekend that I want to talk about before we get on to the rest of this, because we got some cool stuff to do. The first one is I went to this thing called Escape the Room. Have you heard about this yet? It would be right up your alley.
Yeah. Where you they put all the clues and stuff.
They lock you in a room, and they put a whole bunch of clues in the room, and you got to figure out how to get out of the room.
As a group, yeah.
As a group. I thought, you know, so often in like our world of defensive tactics and all this kind of stuff, problem solving is so often overlooked.
Oh yeah.
You know, and to me that was such an awesome exercise in problem solving and teamwork. Like assigning people to certain tasks, making sure they're doing their thing, making sure you're getting the right clues, making sure you're applying them. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
No, I don't doubt it. I mean, one of the biggest things is getting more than one person to be on the same task and doing it well together is hard.
And it was a lot of observation skills too, quick observation skills. I mean, you have 1 hour to get out of the room, and what you thought was one room actually turns into 3 rooms.
Oh wow!
Because there's all these little secret rooms that open up. And we did one as the guys. We had a whole bunch of couples, a whole bunch of friends that did it. The guys did one room, the girls did another room, and their room was a big apartment. Ours was like this archaeological dig. Theirs was this apartment, and they walked into an apartment that was a full furnished apartment with multiple rooms, and their clues were spread all over the place. And with ours, all our clues were pretty small, but once we figured out the secret entrances into all these other rooms, we had to go back and forth to all the rooms to solve this puzzle and go back and solve this puzzle and get clues out of this area to go back over there. And there were tons of clues that didn't mean anything, and there were tons of clues that were really important. And so the interesting thing was just those kind of observation skills and that quick application. You know, to me, as this kind of lifestyle that we lead, I think that those kinds of things are important as well. Plus, they're just tons of fun. So I know they're worldwide. I mean, if there's one near you, you should definitely check it out.
Yeah,
I'd still be locked in there.
The first thing I do when I teach, like I just got done doing a pistol course, is before my drills is like, okay, identify. I call that in my drills because that's important for law enforcement or anybody. You have to identify what the threat is. So if you're not identifying what the threat, you know, just shooting drills is, you know, that's great. Marksmanship, front sight grip, everything is great for the principles of shooting, but the principles of fighting, identification is critical. So that's one thing I always put. Identify what the problem is. How do we solve it?
Right.
So that's cool.
Yeah, it was interesting. Last thing is Pat Rogers passed away.
Yeah.
That is sad.
Heart failure.
Wow.
Bummer deal.
How old was he?
He was old,
pretty
man.
old, man.
70s,
retired Marine and retired NYPD detective. Like
wasn't he in his 70s?
Yeah,
early 70s
at least.
Like
well,
he was a well-seasoned guy.
Yeah. Still teaching, you know.
Still teaching.
Yeah. And you know, the interesting thing, like the reason we bring that up is obviously one, it's a loss to our community because he had a lot of great information to put out there in the world.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, you know, look, if you're looking to get involved with an instructor and go take some classes, do it, because you never know what's coming around the corner. You know, as these guys, you know, Louis Auerbach recently passed, you know, a year ago. Our friend Bill Dreeland from Gunsight passed a couple years ago. You know, they're taking some of their knowledge with them.
Yep.
And if you want to go get that knowledge from them, you know, you never know what's going to happen. Even us young guys, man, we freaking die in a car wreck tomorrow or whatever. Like, if you want knowledge, move on it.
Some of the best instructors stick to fundamentals, you know. And, you know, it may seem like, oh, I've heard this before, but it's the way they produce it and get you to understand it. Like, it changes things.
All right. So let's get a little bit more into kind of where we're at and what we're doing. All right. Your favorite stuff.
Wait, where are we? I'm confused.
So Tacville. All right. Last time we had you on the show, which was, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 months ago or something like that. Yeah. We talked about Tacville. We talked about the need for force on force training. We talked about what you do and how you do it and all that kind of stuff. And this place was still being built. But we've got a couple cool things going on today. One, you can kind of see on the video, what can you see? Maybe 20%. You know, what do you think, Adam? You're looking at the video, about 20%-ish. I mean, this place is awesome. It's like it's almost like an overseas favela. We got clothes hanging on clotheslines. We've got alleyways. We've got staircases. We've got stairwells. We've got mouse holes. We've got this building in the middle that's kind of behind us that it would be an absolute nightmare if that's what you actually had to take care of. There's all kinds of cool obstacles in here. We got a car in here. We got all these cool things going on that just don't exist in a normal range.
Yeah. I started helping law enforcement over more than a decade ago. Not being from the LE or military community, working more in the executive protection world, non-conventional, I started looking at things in a different scope. So I would see their training. I was like, wow, they're only training to a certain level. Let me see if we can do something. The hardest part was location, tools, training time, budgets, all these things for law enforcement and military. When I decided to design this, the one thing I wanted to make sure is that we had 2-story, which is very rare in a mountain village. Being able to actually go up to the 2nd story, having overwatch, having angles, the geometry of it was so dynamic. Everybody comes in here, literally says they can spend months in this place doing the right kind of angles. So angular search, dynamic entry, whatever you want to do, you can practice them here. I'm not here to dictate tactics. I'm here to help those who want to explore and be tested on their tactics, and that's a big thing. A lot of guys only want to do win-win scenarios. And sometimes let's go in there and put guys against you so that way you can see, are you handling it correctly? Forget the egos. You're here to learn.
Well, and that's a big thing we see in the training community is what we refer to as ballistic masturbation.
Mm-hmm.
Where people, they set up a target at a comfortable distance.
Yep.
They use whatever platform they're using comfortably. They shoot within their comfort zone. Maybe they move and shoot a little bit. YouTube is full of ballistic masturbation.
Yes.
I mean, it's just full of people on there shooting these giant targets. Everyone's into speed. Look how fast I can shoot. Look how fast I can draw. Look how quickly I can do this. And it's all in the open, and there's no tactics behind it, and there's no resistance, there's no pressure. It's just them doing badass things. On the 10th take, they finally published that video, and it makes them look cool.
I call it this way. It's like, listen, let's say you're a baseball player, and all you did was set up, and everybody's going to throw you the pitch you want. You can pretty much hit it. But when you don't know, your ratios dramatically change. And guys who game their training, to me, is just a training scar. And it'll show up. There's some good value with certain training skills, but I see other trainers who go, okay, this is speed. Look how fast I can do this drill. I go, what's the purpose of that drill?
Mm-hmm.
Let's identify what are you learning here? So yes, there's time for everything. Speed is obviously speed kills. We've heard that before, but honestly, my ability to get into the fight before you is where it's important. Angles, cover, those are principles.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I going to get in a 50-50 gunfight with anybody? Even if I'm fast, it doesn't mean he's out of the fight.
You still got a 50-50 chance.
Of him hitting me anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we looking at?
Bad luck, trip angles, over something, anything
movement,
like that.
Cover, using that. Those are principles you want to work on. So how do we shoot and move to cover? I don't see that very often. I see a lot of guys doing square, shooting back and forth between a target. They're like, yeah, this is not the Old West. The guy goes down, it's over. This is the possibility of these ballistics not putting a guy down is very high. Him getting a round off on you, it can happen. And so, yeah.
Well, we see it on the square range with force-on-force training, where we're doing force-on-force on square range, introducing people to the ideas of that kind of pressure. Well, we'll see where tactics are going pretty well, verbals are going good, physical's going good, until something happens. The guns come out. And as soon as the gun comes out,
all bets are off.
It is stand and deliver, man. It just turns into a slugfest.
Yep.
Two people just sit there and just shoot the piss out of each other because there's not really that much tactic. Maybe they move a little, maybe they do this, but you see a lot of
They don't know
training
actually how to
stars come
draw
out.
on the move.
Mhm.
They don't know. So, I actually break things down to increments of, okay, if we're going to draw with we call it our shooting leg forward. Most people don't teach that. And they're like, why would I teach that, Cole? Because when you have to move, that leg may be the closest thing for that angle, and you have to shoot on the move pushing this way. But what I've seen, because I work, with training scars, the only way they ever draw is when this leg goes back, the right leg goes back. So their intelligence goes, I have to move to my left side because that's where my cover is. But since I only know how to draw with my leg going back, they end up turning and running backwards. And you just see another training scar. I'm like, they just don't know what gunfighting is. They know what shooting is. They don't know what fighting is. And so these are the things and the principles we have to look at. This is what I bring to the community. There's a lot of great teachers out there. I can go through the list. Anybody wants to ask me, I'll refer them to other instructors for marksmanship principles. You're here. If you come to my class, I expect you to understand how to do a magazine, reload, malfunction drills, all of that. I'm here to teach you fighting. how the body wants to fight, and how to put that into a technical environment where technical meets natural. That's what we're looking at. So,
now, in here, we were talking about before the show, some of the people that come in here and kind of get wrecked. You know, we were joking about dads getting wrecked by kids and all that kind of stuff. But there's a group of shooters out there that really get wrecked, and it's the kind that are very used to square ranges as competitive shooters. Now, you know, we're competitive shooters by, you know, for fun, so we're not going to knock the competitive shooting community.
There's some skills to learn there.
But what we are going to say is, if that is all you do, you're not going to stand and deliver in your living room necessarily.
Well, I always call things training scars. It happens. So one thing that can work in this environment doesn't pollinate to the next thing and can get you hurt or killed. And so I have arguments. I don't tend to have arguments. I try to speak within some level, of intelligence. Yes, I know you can do this fast doing this. For this problem, because you can pre-plan it, you can do this very well. But when you don't have any idea what the problem is and you can't game it, we need to create a set of principles that can take you in all directions. Because the moment you only learn how to do this, the next time you have another problem, you have to come up with a whole new set of solutions. And it doesn't translate very well. And you see these start to break down over time. And so just like the guys who run competitive only, and they understand, they frame themselves, they don't know what cover is, they don't know what angle is, they don't know what pressure is. Wow. And it may take a few times for them to start understanding it, but luckily they're doing it here. Or they'll be like the gentleman who runs up in front of the door, doesn't look at an angle, and just sits there and frames himself for somebody to shoot him. Mm-hmm. You know, even if he has his gun out, he's action versus reaction. He's not going to get it up, you know. And he's probably still assessing, did I just get shot? I mean, it's one of those things like you almost can't believe it just happened.
Well, here's the one thing I like about training. This is one thing that we do as instructors. So many people think that as instructors, I mean, this is what we do for a living. We teach people how to shoot, to an extent, how to fight. For us, we're teaching a lot more people how to shoot. To fight with their guns, yes, but really the fundamentals of stuff. What I like about places like this is, as you often refer to it, laboratory. And what I like about that idea is when we go out as instructors and we're working with new course curriculum, or we've seen a problem start to arise in our students, we're like, man, our students are developing this habit we don't like, or our students are reacting to this certain exercise in a way we don't like. We start to experiment. We start to experiment with different things. But on the square range, we can only take that so far, right? Safety. So I like the idea of experimenting. And I think what's missing in the training community so much is instructors who teach, or are, let me rephrase that, who are willing to be flexible in what they teach, to look at something and say, you know, I've been teaching this for 2 or 3 years, but it doesn't work. I don't like the way it's producing this reaction to my students. I don't like the way that my students are doing this under this exercise. And I'm seeing why that's happening. It's because we as instructors are forcing that. So let's go back to the range. Let's experiment a little bit. I like the idea that you call this place a laboratory because we're experimenting here.
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect, right?
I have guys on my team for military, they're phenomenal careers. I have guys who are law enforcement, SWAT team, and there's a drill that works for military, and we'll discuss it. We don't want to teach it to our SWAT team. They're like, why? I go, because it doesn't pertain to this job. Okay. It's great for military, bad for this. So we discuss stuff like that all the time, even within our group, to make sure that we're on the same page. Is the drill going to be intelligent, or are we just running another drill? You know, like, why are we doing this thing? So we always ask the whys, and we make sure we understand it. And somebody who comes up to us and goes, hey, our department doesn't want to do that, we understand completely. Like, okay, that's why we've done this long enough where we go, okay, whatever your department asks for, do it here. Don't follow our drill just because of the sake of the drill. Don't add a training scar because you want to do it. So we always ask people, if you want to hold it up in a high ready, that's great. If you're the one of the department who wants to hold it between you and a perceived threat, hold it between you and a perceived threat. I'm not here to change your department policy. We just had a situation, I was teaching last week with the Navy SEAL, and we were teaching pistol, and he brought up a great point. As professionals, you want to learn how to reholster without looking at your holster. And we immediately got reaction back from some of the law enforcement that said, hey, you know what, our department wants us to look back at our holster because under that adrenaline and stress, the last thing they want you to do is shoot yourself.
And yes.
And they are completely correct, because you know what, by the time they holster, they should know that the fight is over and it's a safe place. They go return the holster. But as professionals, we want to be able to do it. But we understand that community as well. So, okay, the community understands the limitations of their training of their officers. And it doesn't mean they're unintelligent or they're not trained to a higher standard. It just means, you know what, this is probably their first shooting they've ever been in. Get it back safely. And we understand it. So we go through that. This just happened last week. And I knew it, but my buddy who's a SEAL was his first time. And it was like a major awakening to understand the difference between military and law enforcement training. So
now, as far as like what the regular guys can do here as well, because let's talk about kind of the regular side of the house at Tacville. Because you guys are a lot more than just, you know, agency, military, department type stuff. You've got a whole other thing going on here as far as regular dudes being able to show up and experiment.
Yes.
So what can a regular guy off the street come to Tacville and do to experiment?
We have two sides of this. Obviously, we have Tacville that will hire TacFlow instructors, and we will have courses up. You know, we have everything from 4-hour course curriculums. We have next week, and I have a carbine class. We have you know, executive travel awareness course. How do you travel abroad? You'll be surprised how most people have no idea what they're doing when they travel abroad. So we have these courses that allow you to come in here, go through our instructors, and then we have the basic fun side under another company called Splat Tactics AZ. Splat Tactics allows it for basic gameplay where we have a staff here that creates mission objectives. You as a team will work together to solve, and it is a team environment. So we separate guys early on. We get them to kind of create some kind of cooperation. Yeah, exactly. Get them to talk. Thank you.
I got and you. That's the only reason I'm here. I'm here to help people with their words sometimes.
You know what? I get hit in the head a lot. So I've been hit in the head a lot. So we get them to work together, solve problems, and they come out here and they find out if their planning did the job or they didn't. When they get done, they're either high-fiving or they're making excuses.
Right.
Okay. So at the end, our mission planners go, okay, we're going to flip the scenario around. This time you'll be attacking, defending, planning a bomb, disarming bomb, hostage rescue. You know, we're going to do attack and defend the embassy. So whatever you are, you're going to have to problem solve. So you sit down again. Okay, all right, guys, we just saw what they just did to us. It either worked or failed, or can we use that? Plan ahead. So it's a constant mathematical problem solving under stress. So guys who come in here, we've had CrossFit gyms come in here, and they're within the first 8 minutes. I mean, the first mission, they're soaked. They're like, holy crap, the amount of adrenaline dump you're getting. I'm like, yeah, because it's different. And you'll be surprised how tired you are. You got guys in here who can't hold their gun up after between the first game because their adrenaline dump, their muscles are firing when they shouldn't be. So
now, what I like about what you're talking about is failure, because I'm a huge fan of failure, right? Yes. I love failure. I love failure in training. Yeah. I love failure. I mean, physical fitness, work to failure, mental fitness, work to failure, shooting, work to failure, and because that's how we get better, right? So what's nice about it here is, like you said, most people come out after they lose to make excuses like, well, it was your fault because you didn't die and I wanted you to this, and then I was doing this.
Who had my bag?
You left me out. I was all alone in the open, you know, or whatever. Everyone's got a reason for their lack of success.
For their suck.
But this, yeah, for their suck. But in this kind of opportunity, if you come in with a good team, or you come in with some friends, or you come in with a group or whatever, you can really experiment in here and find your failure points. Like, oh, I see what I'm doing wrong here. I'm not going to do that next time. And next time you don't do that, but you're doing something else wrong to get you smoked. So you're just kind of trying to always figure. That's what I like about the experiment idea of what
it creates leadership too. I mean, you got to get people to talk. And a lot of things that people don't do is they don't want to shoot, move, or communicate. They don't do all three of them together very well. So having to communicate, you'll see teams don't communicate very well. You were going to
if you're going to come in here to experiment with things, you have to be able to question your dogma. Like that's a big thing with the industry as a whole, instructors as a whole, is they learned one way to do it. It's the only way they learned how to do it. They're not ever going to change that way because this is my way. This is the right way.
Yeah.
And then you take other guys, you guys, us, you know, we sit down and we reevaluate the dogma from time to time to make sure that that's still valid, still up to date.
There's programs out there who had a beginning, and they sent usually people, and they created laboratories, and they come out, and then they share it. Yes, it's still susceptible to being scrutinized. Yeah, it's supposed to be. You're supposed to always sit there and go, is there a better way to do things? find it, you know. But this is just the beginning. It's, you know, because if you don't have beginnings, you can't continue moving. At least they're thinking, you know. But a lot of guys won't. This is the way we learned it. I go, yeah, that was so far, you know, that was such a long time ago. You know, you got guys who were pre 9/11 Delta guys. And the post 9/11 Delta guys and the guys coming out after 9/11, and even in the last 5 years, are like, we're not doing the same thing anymore. Those guys, they're teaching you over there, they're great career guys, but it's different, and I can't argue with them.
Well, those techniques are always gonna change, and I think that's a big thing that people have to understand too, as they seek out instructors or instruction organization. Is, you know, we always tell our students, like, when we hire instructors, I don't give a damn about their experience or their resume or anything like that. It's all neat stuff, right? Yeah. We've all done neat stuff. But beyond that, I want to know whether or not they can take that neat stuff and they can translate it, one, to what I refer to as the 9-90 crowd, because we never know who we're going to be teaching. But also, can they do it in such a way that, one, it's understandable, and two, it makes sense, and three, are they staying up to date with their information?
Yeah.
You know, like our precision rifle instructor, for example, his biggest pet peeve in that world is you have all these sniper dudes who were early deployments in early 2000s, pre 9/11, stuff like that, who are still teaching techniques that are outdated, essentially. You know, there's better ways to do things, right? And for us, it's the same way. I mean, you know, I think John, you and me are probably, maybe other than Adele, we're like the oldest service dudes.
Yeah.
Everyone else is pretty further in. But
everybody else is pretty much post 9/11.
Yeah, so it's like, for us, the way we were originally taught,
I learned non-tactics, man.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
Like, I mean,
I used to joke, like, is this my dad's gear? You know what I mean? Like, what is this crap that you're handing me?
We're doing patrols, and it's like, all right, I'm thirsty, so I'm going to drink from my canteen. I'm going to hand it to
you. Exactly, because you can't walk around the jungle with a half full canteen.
Can't have a sloshing canteen.
You know what I mean? It's like, we don't need that anymore.
You know.
And so if we had ended that there, and we're teaching those techniques now, they're totally outdated. You know, so if we don't update our training, it's the same issue, and that's what you see. That's what I love about a place like this, is you can take those kinds of techniques. Does it still work?
There's another thing we're going to do. We're actually going to add to our plywood type walls. We're going to add to them. We can always add to these walls non-structurally. We can add cardboard. So when we run sims, they're going to go right through them because people don't understand.
So you can penetrate.
Concealment and cover. There's different.
There are two different things.
Yes.
Wait,
that's right. Like a laundry basket, for example.
Yeah, and full metal jacket round.
Full metal jacket round. Yeah. Had his concealment.
So not equal cover.
So that's important for guys to understand. This is concealment, not cover, and temporary cover. What does that mean? How do we move? And
well, I really like that idea, because you've got these buildings, obviously, for modularity and cost and all that kind of stuff, they're plywood. So if we were using real rounds on structures like this, which we wouldn't really find them necessarily in the real world, but some
it depends on where you go in the real world.
They are made of freaking
you
plywood.
Have tin on them.
But if you throw some tin up here, we're in business. But you know, for the most part, the reball stuff, the little rubber balls you guys are using, obviously are going to be stopped by this plywood stuff. Yep. I like the idea of putting, because that just adds that one more level of realism of, hey man, not everything you hide behind is actually going to stop rounds. And depending on the type of round, it may be stopped, it may be slowed down, it may be fragmented, whatever. But anything that you can.
You guys want to shoot one? You want to shoot one of those things?
Yeah, so we're going to bust out the gun.
We get to shoot. We get to shoot on the show today?
I think he just.
That's fantastic.
He's been hanging around the background, but
Mike.
Yeah, he just walked.
Essentially 3 manufacturers of functional mag-fed guns out there. These are kind of the ones we found to be the best so far.
First Strike.
Sorry, First Strike. Their name is changing to First Strike for everything. We like this one because it's a true 1-to-1. Any standard AR rail fits on it. So if you want to put a KMR rail on it or a Daniel rail, you can. The mags are essentially the same dimensions of a mag.
And you mags too, which I love, because like my biggest bitch about paintball and airsoft is this limitless ammunition that you have that's just not realistic. You know, it's not realistic. You sit there and
we actually,
fire forever.
even for civilian gameplay, we limit the amount of ammo they can bring out here.
Mhm.
So they either get five mags, which is 20 rounds. If they say the word clip,
Good job.
Well played.
if they're running a hopper, they only get 100 rounds anyways. And so
Throw that thing off. So again, the cool thing is, and your air tank is in the stock.
It's in the stock.
So it's not hanging off.
The bottle off the bottom. You can, there's no air hose if you want, run a bigger tank. But
I mean, you set up. You've got a designator. You've got light. You've got your VFX. I mean, you can put
all
going full retard. You can go
full. That is full tactical retard right there.
Selector
Well done.
switch. You can show them. I mean, it's
on these. The barrels are quick change, so if you want to put a longer one in, and I want to go, you know, put a scope on here and snipe dudes for a while.
Throw into a DMR roll or something.
Just like a bayonet style barrel, so you can switch them in and out.
Hell yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to get one of those.
Yeah. So I'm thinking like,
I think
we're
once you
investing this
do
right now.
this is like, you know, I didn't think I'd be that much into it, but as soon as I started slaying kids, it was awesome.
So you start
I was
shooting
like,
children.
Oh yeah, what? Yeah.
Well, what I liked about the first time I came here
Oh.
and you needed it, you guys gave me the full tour and everything. And we were shooting one. We were up here on the roof of the embassy here, and we're shooting all the way across. And like you said, you turn down the gas a little bit so that when you're up close and personal, you're not just pounding somebody. But there still has enough
to go about
power,
60 yards. 60.
Yeah, that you can still shoot. I mean, we were shooting across here, no problem.
Even Sims are only affected to about 50 yards. You know, like they start to change a little bit after that.
So what we did is we set one of your torso rubber dummy targets up there on the balcony of the embassy, and you want to crack off some rounds for us, Mike? Show everybody. Tell me, is he in the video shot? Can you see the dummy up there too, Adam? All right, cool. So just pop a couple rounds so everybody can see what's going on, Mike.
No pressure.
Don't miss, Mike. You're on video forever. It's live.
This
Dude.
isn't zeroed.
Oh, here we go.
The excuses have already started.
There you go. Yeah, look at that, dude.
You guys want to shoot it?
Just pounding. Yeah, let John shoot. He has a shot. But it's not zero, John. So you already have excuses for missing.
Sweet.
I like how Mike set himself up there.
They ricochet, so be careful what you shoot at.
So make sure you get good hits, John. Bring it down a little bit. There you go. Isn't that sweet?
Like a little kid at a candy store, man. I need one of these.
and it's fully functional. I mean, it's incredibly realistic. So thanks, Mike. And you guys have pistols too, right?
Yeah,
some kind of sidearm situation.
Yeah, we run
They
the
make a
airsoft.
handgun.
Yeah, they make an air.
They'll shoot the big rubber balls. It's not just because of the size of the balls.
Mhm.
The gun is like the size of a Desert Eagle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's what I carry every day anyway. I carry a Desert
Mine's
Eagle.
usually medical, and I carry an appendix for long.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the only downside, just because of how big the balls are to make it functional. The thing is like the size of your thigh. But
For training, we run airsoft. You know, we have these in chalk rounds too. So if you want to have a marker, you can get a marker back to. Yeah, we want to get a chalk round.
Yeah, let's see what that does.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
We'll shoot John and we'll see how it marks.
No, we won't.
Adam's a big fella. He can take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think the importance of having realistic guns is? Because I'll tell you my perspective on it is I love it. I love it, and here's why. Because it gives me easy transition from I can set up a gun like that, very similar to my normal gun, and then my weapons manipulation and everything is the same.
Just an example on Sunday, we have actually a sponsored team now for our civilian gamers.
Mhm.
They're the Splag Tactics team. They're called SAS, I believe.
Of course. Gotta be cool.
It says AS. Yeah, there's leagues around the country. I'm getting new. This is new for me, so I'm catching up to the lingo here. But they're milsim gamers. They fully kit out. They spend their time looking at photos of guys who've been downrange and they want to emulate. So they came in here and they said, okay, they all were running these kind of guns. I said, okay, we're just gonna work safety on, safety off. Their brains just on what? Like there's a thing called a safety on, safety off. I'm like, yeah, you don't leave it off. You know, when you're moving, how to go off. I'm shooting. They were like completely surprised.
Mhm.
Like you can go into a target, hit, then as you're moving, clear safety is the back off. You know, off target, off trigger. And they were just like, something like that does not exist.
Mhm.
So they're understanding the gaming and angles, but all these other things are like.
actual weapon skills.
Yeah. So that's where the two start to merge. Okay, angles, cover, movement. Now you got to know how to weapons manipulation in it. So this kind of takes you there. Having realistic weapons that you can actually empty mag reload. There's a malfunction. Unfortunately, the transition of firearms on this one, you got to get cover or get somebody cover. Somebody's got to cover you while you fix your weapon system.
Or fixing it.
Yeah.
How often do you experience actual malfunctions in the guns?
At least, you'll go through something. So you'll have something. Yeah.
Is it usually like a failure to feed issue?
Failure to feed issue. Tap, rack. You're not getting it. Clear it.
Normal malfunction clearances. Yeah. Finger the mag well. Yeah. So how often do the guns just totally crap out?
It happens. And that kind of fight, so these guys carry rubber blades in here.
Oh, really? So they go blade?
They go blade only.
Transition.
So, they transition to blade.
Yeah,
so, they work there. If they can take it to the armor, they can get it back in or get it handed another gun. But just anything else, there is a level where you yourself can put it out. Hitting it into something, you can unseat it.
Mm-hmm.
Failure to feed happens. People hit the empty mag,
And if someone wants to come in here, they want to rent a gun. If I wanted to come in here and run through your open nights, weekends you're open, and open nights you got
we're
veteran
open,
stuff going on.
Yes, for veterans, get half price discounts. We want to give back. LE Fire give discounts. The reason we put fire in there because we have friends on both. We didn't want them to sit there and go, it's all
can't hurt anybody's feelings, right?
Yeah, can't hurt feelings in the community. All right.
So when you're what's it cost to rent the gear to come down here?
For normal gameplay without discounts, it's $65.
And that includes gameplay and the rental?
Gameplay, rental, ammunition, everything.
Now, what if I want to buy a gun like what Mike was showing me? What's that going to run me?
$499.
So like $500 for a full setup?
Yeah, with kit. Yeah.
Well, all the cool super tactical stuff. Yeah,
I've got all that stuff at home.
Yeah.
I've got like oodles of extra.
But just like that gun set up from the
$500
factory,
with
$500.
$499 for the air bottle stock, the gun, Picatinny rail, 2 mags, and a hard. It's a nylon case, but it's like a molded hard.
Yeah, they actually give you a case in it, so you're not walking around and getting shot at by cops.
Getting shot up by cops because it looks so stinking real. So there's the chalk rounds?
I have a couple chalk rounds in there, and they also make these for the training. They actually make a rifled paintball round. They have a rifled barrel.
They will fly far.
We were doing full auto mag dumps into a trash can, and they were all pretty much.
And that feeds normally?
Yep.
Yeah, you put it in the magazines, you load them like standard rounds. They actually have a rifled barrel that matches this, and they're stupid accurate for a paintball round.
Interesting.
So you can raise the air pressure, and then you can go outdoor field. So if you're gonna do outdoor training, you can run force on force outdoor.
Little extra distance. So now what are these rounds?
These are chalk rounds.
These are all right, let me shoot these things.
Now I gotta shoot.
Sight's a little high right.
High right?
Yeah. So shoot a little low left.
Do I rack it normally or what?
They're
Oh, you broke it, Glenn.
Oh, you're fine. I heard it.
So everything else operates normally, right? Yeah. So you said it's high right?
Yeah.
I don't need to be taking zeros. So now if you fix, so that means I'm out, right?
Yep, you're up.
So then how do you clear a gun like that?
If it has one that messes up in there, you pull the charging handle and drop out.
So then you pull
Yeah.
it and it drops out.
Yeah, they are
about the function clearance, but I can see in the chamber.
They already had to sit down with the person who's actually their engineer.
Yeah.
We just had a meeting with them because we told them we wanted a longer charging handle. We wanted certain things to help us in training. And so they are going to change it because of what we wanted.
So you're going to get a longer charging handle, so you have like a normal pull. Dust cover's going to pop open so you actually see inside the chamber.
I'm not sure if we're going to do that.
I don't know if that one will, because the whole reason this is here is you can run this as a hopper fed, like a traditional paintball gun. You can rotate the barrel and then put a hopper on there if for whatever reason you wanted to.
Okay.
I don't know why you would, but
yeah. Interesting.
But now you got marking rounds without the mess. We can just go up there and vacuum power.
Yeah, and that marked beautifully.
Yeah. And so now we don't have to worry about paint.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we want to run or airsoft, because a lot of departments can't get it, they don't have any Sims program. We can offer this for them. They get marked. They'll learn. They'll see it. Go, okay, you've been hit.
Yeah.
And so there's options out there. And then we have airsoft that they want to just practice because those are pretty similar to other malfunction drills. This is a great place for civilians who are afraid to hit the range right away.
Mm-hmm.
We can get all the bad habits out of the way here, how they start muzzling each other, start talking here.
Hey, Glenn, where am I going?
Yeah.
Hey, are we clearing this building or what? You're like,
whoa. no, easy.
Oh, yeah.
Like dodge the muzzle.
Finger on the trigger all the whole time, you know, like, holy crap. So we can do things safely and build them up, getting ready to go to the range. The time to go to the range, what I've learned, and this is because I've most of my training I've done is for LE. And that means I've taught more LE than anything else. I just started teaching some civilians. LE brings memories, behaviors, anxiety to shooting. Okay. That means I'll go on the line and I go, and the guy does this and I'll break him down. I go, okay, this class, once again, isn't about how you hit the paper. I want to know why you're doing what you're doing. And a lot of times they've never self-diagnosed. Mm-hmm. They have no idea why they're adding all this stuff. You know, we're doing rock and lock shooting from hip. And you see guys doing stuff. I'm like, you know, your shoulders are out of alignment right now.
Start dipping.
I go, it solves this problem, but later creates more problems for other things. So we have to create some patterns of principles. And so if you think it's bad for LE, for civilians, it's worse because all they have is a reference of a memory or a movie. Start off here just building brand new memories. So by the time they go back to actually hearing the word, you know, feeling the bang, we can actually start over, you know, instead of sitting there, you know, trying to, you know, because in their mind, they want to do what you're saying, but they can't because they have so much memory with that bad habit. They're like overriding and rebooting the computer.
Now, after we're done, we got about 10 minutes or so left to talk, and I got a question for you. I think it's probably going to take the rest of the time, but when we're done, we're going to do another video we're going to kind of walk through, and we're going to do some exercise. We're going to do some more shooting. That'll be a separate video. So for all our listeners, look for that video. We'll put it up on Facebook and up on our website and all that kind of similar to how we did when we did that on scene with AR-500 armor. Yeah, when we did the show and we did some afterwards stuff. So it'll be pretty cool. You know, we're going to get some really cool footage, and Brian Four is going to put that badass video together like he's done some other great stuff for us as well. So want to put that out there so our listeners know that there's going to be some more video of us shooting and Rigo doing some stuff and kind of showing up some techniques and everything and showing Tacville more. We want to do a little bit more of a tour other than just this. There is more than just this. So the last question I want to ask you, probably one of the biggest questions we get from our students, because you know, I'm a regular dude now, and that's what we always tell people is like these regular dudes now as instructors. We're fathers, we're husbands, we shop at Walmart. That's what we do now, right? So we have to take all of our skill sets, we have to take everything that we know, and we have to apply it to the real world. You know, so it's cool that out on the range, you wear your kit, you got 8. But look, if I'm defending my house, it's me and it's my handgun and my underwear, and hopefully my wife's at my back because we're going to try to move through the house to get to our kids. That's what we're looking for. Yep. You know what I mean?
You just got thrown under the bus.
What'd you say?
Said you don't wear underwear.
My son's here and he's talking trash. Okay, fine.
That's funny.
Me and my glory. Trying to be PC, but I guess not.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. You see this naked coming at you? Trust me. You're not gonna be worried about the gun in my hand.
Now who's being gross?
Hey, before I go clear my house, I go full staff, dude, just to scare the shit out of everybody.
Something's happening.
Something's
going into your body at this point.
That's
now
right.
That you've decided to enter my home.
You can
your
choose.
Choice.
You're inside my circle, as Rigo says, right?
Whatever.
You have to fight your way out of this circle.
Yep.
So,
I feel dirty now.
So the question that we get from a lot of our students is they're interested in home defense because that's where they most realistically see themselves using these techniques. And so often building, clearing, and shoot houses, they're all taught from these team perspectives, and everyone's, you know, some people will wear kit. Like in a shoot house that I've ever done, you're required to wear kit because obviously we're looking at a safety factor. But people then take that, like anytime I've ever worn kit into a shoot house, it's just armor. I just don't want to catch around, you know. But I still run like my everyday carry stuff. But everyone else uses it as an opportunity to go full tactical, you know, cry pants and the whole bit. And that's great if that's your job. But so much shoot house training and so much of that kind of classes and opportunities is all team-based. So much team-based. You got 4 or 5 guys. Someone's clearing top, someone's clearing bottom. You know, got 3 or 4 guys coming in. They can worry about the hard points in the room and all that. But when it's just you, what can people do here at Tacville that allows them to do that?
Home defense course, because a lot of you got to remember, not all the civilians can do a 3-day weekend, or you know, that'll happen. But just home defense. We talk about what weapon system you're carrying. We have the airsoft in shotguns. We have them in pistols and carbine. So we can get something that you look like. We have all types of weapons here. So if you want to carry that one gun, we probably have a replica of it. The first thing we did is once we have to understand ballistics. Some of the best ballistic rounds actually is a carbine, as long as it's not a penetrating round.
Full bunch of an 855.
Yeah, getting something that's fragile, because those things are better than pistol. Pistol rounds can go through some things. People don't understand that. Even though it's hollow point, it can still go through because, you understand ballistics.
Yeah.
Going through and start caking and can make it actually not let it disrupt. Shotguns are great if you know how to run a shotgun, but I work with SWAT teams, and
most people don't know how to run shotguns.
Most people on SWAT teams don't know how to run shotguns. It's a weapon system that can kick your ass. So if you don't know what you're doing, it's not a good choice for you. So finding out the right choice for yourself to work, finding out a light source if you're going to work with the light. We go through that. And the first scenario we put them in is we actually put them in a bed. This is the worst case scenario, that home invasion. You don't hear them. Your dog doesn't hear them.
Wake up and they're there.
And they're at the door, and they're going to start walking towards you. How do you get out of bed and get to your gun? And we time it, not to overstress them, just to show them that they have to be prepared. Is their gun in a box? Is it ready? And people are like, it made them think. Okay. And then we started going through the angular search. We started doing angular search. Just like you said, there's a problem. I want to go check it out. I heard a noise. Don't know what it is yet. I may want to go do how to do it intelligently.
To be one of 200 things. I got kids, I got neighbors, I got house guests sometimes, I got stuff that falls off the shelves, I got kids' toys that make noises.
You have one of your kids who's a little older, and he or she has a girlfriend, boyfriend who snuck in the house.
Absolutely.
Okay? So what are we doing in angular search? How are we doing it correctly? How are we looking for visual representation? And these are one of the things you can ask. Do you opportunity to leave? Do you want to give them, hey, I have a weapon system. If I have a kid who's a teenager, I may want to say that in case they have a knucklehead friend who came over and say, hey, I have a gun, and sorry, sir. But if I don't have a kid, guess what? It's different. I'm going to get in there, and guess what? This guy ain't going to get a warning. His job is to figure out how to get out of here. We do dynamic search. If your kid's on the other side of the house, for whatever reason, you guys split bedrooms, you hear a problem, you get your loved one, and we're going to move with some urgency to the other side of the house. So we're doing things with a different priority work. Getting that's what we primarily look at as solving. We do another class for civilians for like a counterterrorism. You are a CCW card holder. We're walking through the mall. There happens to be a fight going on. What do you do? What's your priorities? Do you go to your family? Is it your priority to get in the fight? We did scenarios here. We did a lot of lab work where we had guys run at them, and they're running with the gun, and we've had a lot of our civilians fail because they shot the guy, and the guy goes, wait a second, I'm the one who just killed.
CCW holder.
Yeah.
No identification, just, oh my gosh, guy with a gun.
Yeah, so we show them how to leave. If they're leaving a structure, how to put their gun away so they don't get shot, if they draw. We did a scenario.
Which is honestly my number one concern. As a concealed carrier who can handle himself, if I get out there in the real world and I got to handle business, like, my biggest concern is fully armed, and there's another dude like me, or hopefully he's like me.
Hopefully.
But he's probably just a CCW holder who took the freaking 2-hour CCW class with no shooting or anything like that. Yeah. And now he's a freaking body slam.
We actually did a scenario, just like you explained in the church, where somebody took a fight when it wasn't supposed to be a gunfight, and
escalated it.
Yeah, and shot somebody. We did it in here. We kind of used our Burger King. I hope I'm not. Well, we get some burgers.
Today show.
Yeah, buddy.
We had a CCW, our student go in there first, going to order, and then we had somebody come behind him being agitated and arguing with we had a person in there eating. Okay. Verbal confrontation starts. The guy starting the confrontation's weapon. You're the CCW holder. What do you do? Here's the thing. The guy who's sitting down eating also has his concealed carry, pulls it out and draws. The guy complies, puts the gun down, complies, and now the guy who gets him to comply moves him away from everybody, does everything right, and then executes him. Think about buddy. But this is not far different from what just happened in the church.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So what do? You just observed a murder and for aiming. what do you do? And this guy's now upset because people are calling him, you just committed a felony, and he's waving his gun at everybody. Now, who's the threat? He is the threat.
I should get up and leave at that point.
Yeah.
Some dude wants to rob Burger King. Go for it, buddy.
So
Not my money.
we created a lot of scenarios to test that, because these aren't things that you can't just script everything, but start thinking. Am I a threat, or is he a threat? He seems agitated around. He just screwed up. Okay. Do I pull my gun out in this? Right. One is if he starts arguing with his gun and pushing it, there's a threat.
Right.
Okay. So these are some of the scenarios we push in here, and so that's another class. So for civilians, we do a lot of things. We'll spend a day on the range, a lot of lab work.
Now, do you think it's beneficial for people to come through here on like open event days and just come in here and run with teams and do hostage rescues and stuff like that? Or do you think that they should take some training and develop good skills? Because there's kind of two sides to this.
Yes.
One, you got to come in, you got to get a little bit of stress inoculation. Don and I played this paintball game years ago.
Yeah.
Where it was just, there was probably like 35, 36 people. It was a ton of people everywhere. And John and I absolutely just dominated the game because we did nothing more than work together, shoot, move, communicate. Shoot, move, communicate. Shoot, move, communicate. It was really basic bounding. We did some really basic flanking maneuvers, and we just absolutely dominated. And the point was is that when we started shooting people, how all they're trying to do is unasked from the area. All they wanted to do is not get shot at anymore. And it was so easy to continue to press them into a bad position where we can take them out. And so I think it's good for people to come in here and get a little bit of that stress inoculation, like, hey, I'm getting shot at, but it's okay.
Yeah. I can use cover correctly, concealment correctly, temporary cover. How do I use angles? How do I know where he's pushing? Can I push him back?
But do you think it's more important for people to come in first and just get used to that environment? Or is it more important training so that when they're in that environment, they can get used to it, but they can also apply the appropriate technique?
I would prefer they get training if that's what they're here for. If they're going to use the weekend to get training, then they're going to get obviously some things that are going to work and not work. But if they have training, they come here on the weekend and play, then they can apply training to that.
Then they can check that laboratory experiment thing we were talking about earlier of, okay, I learned this in class, but how well does it work by myself?
But you got guys who go shooting on the weekends and they post their pictures of them just holding a gun and shooting targets.
Right.
So there's no level of learning. They just have a whole armory of different types of weapons that they shoot, and they're shooters.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, those guys need to come in here to have a reaction. So, because they don't go to training anyways, they just buy more guns.
Well, they know everything there is to know already. Don't you understand? That's why they don't go to training.
Yeah, so they don't go to training. Or I saw it on YouTube, therefore I can rub it. Okay, you're YouTube educated, you're cool. Come out here and try it, and then they realize they have no idea what they're doing, and then they may seek training. So that's a great way to get them into training once they get in here and go, oh, I just got my ass handed to me by a bunch of kids. These kids are just, all
they're doing is checking their corners and checking their angles and learning how to work from the top down. And
or they're just hiding in a corner because they're afraid. But you don't know how to check corners, and next thing you know, the guy's staring at you.
They walk in the room and plop.
Yep, they get plopped.
Well, we like to say in training, we tell our students, like, you have to have a standard and you have to have a way to measure that standard. If you're not training to a standard and you're not training with a measurement, then whatever you're doing doesn't exist and it's not worthwhile. Like, you have to set a standard and you have to have a way to measure it. So in here, there's a way to measure it. Are you getting shot or are you not getting shot? That's the way to measure it. And the standard is, what are we applying or what's the exercise that we're trying to complete? Is it a hostage rescue? Are we rescuing the hostage? Is it a team elimination? Are we eliminating the other team?
Let's put it this way. A dedicated team here who's sponsored they travel, they play milsim gaming all over. I don't play that, okay? But I can come in here and say, okay, and we'll have first people kill 20 people. I'll have a game of 16, 18 kills. Just go through and just run through everybody. It doesn't matter because they don't even know how to work together, and it's funny to watch. And so, like, you'll get some guys in here who understand, and you just dominate, even by yourself, because they're hugging. They don't work well together. They think they do because they're wearing the same.
We're all wearing German fleck.
Exactly, and I'm like, nope, he's gonna die. He's gonna die. He's gonna die. And it's funny. It to me like reaffirms these basic principles. Even in this gaming environment, you can annihilate everybody. Even against good players, I use quotes.
Yeah.
because they're good in their field, but against guys who have any intelligence of how to run, they're like, it's different. They're almost demoralized. You come out, and then we have the ability, because we run rubber knives as well. This is the best part of the whole gaming
Knife
thing.
kills only.
Well, not just knife kills only. Like like this is the worst thing to happen to you. You got a guy in your sight. He's not picking you up, and you're able to get to his flank.
Yeah.
You've already, and he has no idea. You go up there, you pull the knife out, and you see that kid. We're talking kids who are like 20, 30-year-olds.
Right.
For the next, hour or two, just sitting there, just like demoralized. Like, how did that happen? I'm like, you have no idea. You're tunnel vision. You're not watching your corners. You're not seeing anything. This happens all the time in here because people get fixated. Tunnel vision, their optics, they're on the gun, or they stick their head out the window.
They get sucked into those sights, man.
Either that, or they don't have their gun up to where it's eyes gun moving. It's head gun.
Oh, I should shoot
and they
too
get
late.
shot in the head. Yeah, they get shot all the time. So there's things that you can learn here that even in the gameplay, for those who think they have all the training, come just have fun.
Yeah.
And you'll see what happens. For those who want to get training, I suggest that first. Like I said, I build a community. I believe in great teachers and instructors out there. I have friends who are great teachers in other companies. It's not about us. It's about like, all right, go find some intelligence somewhere. If it's something that you're learning from that guy, as long as it makes sense and it's intelligent, preference is what we're establishing. Okay. If you go to my class, you go to somebody else's class, you teach your own thing, grandpa, as long as it works and has intelligence, I can't argue it. A lot of guys argue shit all the time because I go, yeah, you're arguing your preference. It works for you. That's awesome. Let's understand. Let's look at the principles. And in this community, it's known for arguing, everything. And I'm like, unless you've come and actually gone through it, don't argue. Don't look at it up. Don't try to ask what's it about. Go through it, even if you don't like it, just so you can argue with it. And I even tell officers all the time, I don't want you to drink the Kool-Aid. Okay, day one, don't drink my Kool-Aid. And so like, what? I want you to tell me it's bullshit at the end of the class. And they go, okay. Now that we go through the class, thank you for giving me 100% of your attention. So that way you're, now is this something that's useful? They're like, holy shit, yes. It's extremely useful. I go, good way. But I'm okay if you tell me that you're never going to use this again. That's fine. But I want you to experience it with open-mindedness. And I get that. I get that from my students. Because I call it out. I don't want to do. I'm going to share with you something on principle. Let's call it out. You can tell me at the end of this is bullshit. I'm cool with it. But I usually get a rebirth of, I call it a warrior spirit of how they're looking at shooting. Like, we're not just shooting. We're here to learn an art of how we're going to merge with this weapon system and our will to destroy. It's a responsibility, so we have to align these things together. So,
all right, so wrap up the show, and we're going to get to our video that we're going to do. So for our listeners, remember, look for this video. We'll pop up another video. We're going to second. But before we go, places that people can find Tacville, TacFlow Academy, and Splat Tactics AZ. Facebook.
You can find it on Facebook.
Separate.
Yeah, but they're all interlinked, so you can always find it from another. If you actually
Sure.
search, most people don't like to search. It's either one button away.
Right.
Tacville,
TacFlow Academy, and
Splat
Splat Tactics AZ. And if someone wants to find you guys' wing, TacFlowAcademy.com.
No, TacFlow.com is
It's just
simple.
TacFlow.com. Yeah. So easy. TACFLO.com. Awesome. And you guys have I've met some of your instructors, awesome guys, great instructors. Cool.
I'm very fortunate. Our guys are, like I said, I wanted this company not to be about me, my ego, guys who I felt who needed to be seen and heard, guys who are like-minded in sharing intelligence, not ego-driven, and they truly have a passion of sharing, so doesn't mean other companies aren't great. I look at all companies, those guys teach some good stuff. But I just want to make sure our guys on our team kept this standard that, we teach around the country. We all teach different things. I teach certain things. I stay in my lane. As I said, I don't try to be the jack of everything. I got guys who do other stuff. So
Awesome. Well, thanks, Rico, for coming on the show, man. Look forward to stuff afterwards here with you. Mike, thanks for bringing out the gun and loading it up for us and giving John an excuse for missing. He appreciated that. But
I missed like the first two, and then
man, the first two is the one that counts, man. After that, he's got you.
I'm gonna throw punch you.
All right. All right, you guys. Remember, you can always bring us out to train with you. Contact if you want to in your area. We always get we probably get more requests from listeners about who to trust in their area.
Yeah,
it's a big thing. Like you said, we're happy to recommend people. Like we just did some recommendations for the guys on the East Coast, down in the South. Looking for places to train, and we have such a big, broad network of our friends and people in the industry that we're happy to send. Contact us if you have a question. Because we don't want you to go waste your money and your time.
Yeah, just because it says NRA instructor.
No shit, dude. I have also suffered through a 16-hour class at the NRA. I saw the other people that I trained, quote unquote, trained with. Yeah, that doesn't mean shit. So make sure you follow us on Facebook and Instagram. The Arms Room is on Facebook. Independence Training on Facebook and Instagram. Red Wire Gear. On Facebook and Instagram. Check it out.
Word.
I hate social media. I really, honestly hate it with all my soul.
There's no rhyme or reason to it, but you have to have it.
But we have to do it. So we,
it's a lot of fun,
we always try to like actual educational stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So next week we're going to be talking about everyday carry gear, what we carry and why. It has nothing to do with YouTube videos or brand names or anything like that.
Nope.
It's a show we have to do every couple of months because we get a lot of requests from listeners about this show. So we're going to talk about what we carry, why we carry it. Some of it is probably not what you would think.
No,
I don't carry 6 knives or a backup gun or 6 magazines or actually utilize every day. So we're going to talk more about that. I know, John, you're saying. Until next time, stay aware, stay safe, and train hard. You've been listening to The Arms Room. What's so proud?